Hey bro, so I don't know if you watched my Matrix Paradox video. In that video, doesn't really matter, but in that video, I explained something about the system that we have. And when I said and talked about the system, I suddenly came up with an idea in my head, and I just wanted to research about it, and then I uploaded this video. So what I came up with during talking about the system, I suddenly thought of systems in video games. And in the past, I've already tried doing this exact thing, and I failed miserably. So I try and look deeper into this concept and implement it in my life as good as possible, which I did, and it helped me immensely. So right now, this is a full guide to how you can implement the rules of video game into your own life. So it's not like an exact really rule thing. It's more like a mindset that you have to have and implement in your life. So this is just to help you. You choose whatever you do with this knowledge. You choose how you implement it. That's none of my business, and that's just you. There's a lot of freedom when it comes to this kind of mindset. But it's just to help you understand this and help you avoid mistakes that I made. So first of all, I want to talk a bit about my own experiences and my own little backstory. If you're not interested in this, that's no problem. You can just skip ahead. But I recommend you stay just a bit because I believe it can help you understand this video better if you, in any way or shape or form, relate to me and relate to my story and beliefs. So it might help you understand this video more if you notice that, you know, if you can relate to me a bit. So I've always been a big fan of video games. I've played video games for as long as I can remember, and until the age of 12, I used to constantly play on the Wii and the Nintendo DS. So after the age of 12, I finally played on the PlayStation 4 for the first time, which was it was mind-blowing because up until that point, I had only played the Wii and the Nintendo, so I'd only played games like Skylanders and Wii Sports. And while those are Wii Sports Resorts as well, the best one, don't come at me, but up until a point, I really only played these games. And while those were amazing games, they are incomparable to the world of like actual console games. So when I got the PS4, I played Knack and Uncharted, and I was mind blown that these kinds of games were possible because sure, I had YouTube on my iPad, and I had seen and used to watch GTA videos and GTA Mod videos, and I'd seen that, but I'd never actually played something like it. So when I actually got to play something like GTA, and actually GTA 5 itself, it was just mind-blowing. So I've always been a big fan of video games, but after a while, they started getting, boring to me. I believe up until like 2 years ago, I think 2 years ago, video games started to slow down for me and suddenly didn't really feel the same. I didn't get as much enjoyment out of them. Maybe because I was growing up, but I don't really believe that. I think it's because video games might just be getting more repetitive and boring. But then I got into self-improvement and I just completely quit video games altogether. So now I'm here. But that is to say that video games don't still fascinate me. I still have a lot of passion for video games, and I truly wish the best for the industry because for me, video games are a form of art, and I'm an artist, so I can't wait to see where the video games head, especially with AI and stuff like that. And virtual reality as well. I can't wait to see where video games are actually heading in the future. I myself am like, I constantly write down entire pages of like concepts of video games I have in my mind. And I just last week, I spent an entire hour having a conversation with ChatGPT about, an idea I had for a video game. And I just copy pasted the entire idea. And I had a talk with it for an hour about what systems to include, how to implement these systems better and all of that stuff. So it was a concept pretty perfect open world game in my head. So I still have a lot of passion for video games in general, but it's just that I don't really play them anymore. But anyways, that's, my love for video games. But I looked at those video games, and I always thought that the system was very familiar. There was something about video games in real life, and I always looked at it. It always interested me. So a few years ago even, I already tried implementing and looking into this about how to implement video games or how to turn your life into a video game. But it's never really worked for me up until now. And that's not to say that's a bad idea. That's the whole point. It's a great idea because life really is like a video game. But there are specific things we have to discuss when it comes to implementing this in your life, because I've seen a lot of videos about it, but up until now, people always talk about the system you have to implement. And it's never really worked for me because I always made things too overcomplicated. I always made like entire pages of systems, and it got so complicated that I couldn't even follow my own system anymore, and I just gave up on it. So it's not really about implementing a system in your life. It's more so looking at the system of video games and implementing that. It sounds confusing because what's the difference? But it's more like a mindset you have to have. You have to look at the world like your video game, not make your world a video game. That's because making a video game, there's a lot of things that go into making a video game. So you can't just make your life a video game. That's impossible. You have to put a lot of effort in that. So more so than making life a video game, you have to look at life like a video game. So we're going to go, I won't waste any of your time. We're going to hop straight into the video. So I'm going to talk about instantly, first topic, the differences. So the differences between real life and a video game. Because I have to bring down your expectations a bit. You're not gonna get a full augmented reality, UI in front of your face after watching this video. It's not gonna happen. There are differences once again between life and a video game, which make it which is why I made this video. So instantly, I want to just pull you down a bit because maybe you're getting too hyped, and I have to bring down your expectations. So I'm gonna start with the first difference, and that is we only have one life. It's a very clear difference, but it's a very noticeable one. If you were to ask people why they didn't just treat life like a video game, it would most likely be because we only have one life to live. In video games, there really aren't any consequences to your actions, and you just respawn. For example, in GTA 5, you can rob a bank or kill all women on the street and run them over. And the cops will you got, 3 stars, the cops might chase after you. But really, after that, there are only two outcomes, and both outcomes end in the same outcome, really. So outcome number one is they bust you, so you're caught by the police, and you respawn at the hospital and lose some money. Second outcome is you get wasted, so you die, and you respawn at the hospital and lose some money. And that's the only consequence for, killing an old lady, running her over, shooting her, whatever, and the cops following you and shooting or busting you. That's the only consequence. You don't end up in jail. You don't, have to... Well, I don't even know why I'm saying all this. You don't have to end up... You're not dead. Imagine if the game just ended there. Wasted, and at the end, and the rest of the game is just you with a black screen because you're under the ground in your tombstone, in your coffin. That would just be amazing. But there you have infinite lives, and there really aren't any consequences to your actions, and that makes video games. There are a lot of different factors, but that's one of the factors that makes video games so much more accessible and easier to do fun stuff in than real life, because in real life there are actual consequences to your actions. Everything you do has a consequence. Everything. Me picking up this phone has a consequence, maybe because of audio reasons, or maybe anything. There are consequences to your actions. So that's why all in all, we don't take risks. We're afraid to take risks out of the fear of, hurting ourselves, dying, or, messing something up. In video games, that's just not the case. If you were to play a video game where you only had one life, like in real life, you only have one life, would you spend that game sitting around the whole time doing nothing out of fear of ending the game? Although that sounds stupid, if you really just have one life in this video game and you spend money on this video game, you might as well just make the best out of it. You might as well just, explore and do everything to your heart's content. Maybe even run over an old woman, and that will be the end of the game because you just got shot for killing an old woman. But it will be worth it because at least you did something fun for like 1 second. It will at least be worth it. Not that I'm saying you have to go outside and run over an old woman, but that's the whole premise of it. If you were to play a video game that you spend $60, because most video games cost $60 today. Sorry, cost $60 today. I had a lot of voice cracks. I'm still, in puberty. Excuse me for that. So if you were to buy a game for $60, would you sit and in that game you only have one life? You wouldn't just sit around. You do fun stuff even in that video game where you only have one life. That just makes sense. You wouldn't just sit around because then, well, the game wouldn't be worth buying at all if you were to just sit around out of fear of dying. That would just be stupid. Why would you sit around in fear of dying in a video game, even though you only have one life and the game ends after that one life? And it's the same in real life. Why do you constantly sit around in real life out of fear what will happen to you if you actually do something risky or challenging? That doesn't really make, so that's, instead of looking at life out like, I only have one life, you look at it more like, well, video games, I have tons of lives, which makes anything I do not so special because I can just do it, an hour later. Meanwhile, with a game, you only have one life. Every experience is special. But I'm saying that these games with multiple lives, infinite lives, aren't special and don't have, like memories. You don't have memories from them. But all in all, a game where you only have one life and then the game ends and so you choose to play that game and that one life as best as possible, I honestly believe that all in all, that game will be the better video game because there was a balance. You weren't full out, constantly doing the craziest stuff that would just end up getting you killed because you still had to live. But you also weren't just doing nothing. There was a perfect mix between living just walking around, living life, and doing something challenging and fun constantly. So that's the balance that we're going to try and achieve with this video. So that's the first difference. You only have one life. The second difference, very clear, you have no UI. There's no visual aid in front of your eyes. In a lot of video games, especially RPGs and MMORPGs, you have what's called a UI, a user interface. This can either be in menus or most likely on the screen constantly. We don't have this visual aid in real life, which makes implementing game mechanics into real life much harder. For example, let's say habits or tasks. You can make a routine and a planning like I did. My whole day is just full. You can do it like me, but all in all, you might forget what you were going to do because you don't have a UI that's constantly telling you, oh yeah, go do that right now. You don't have a mini map that shows you where you have to go. You can use Google. You can use Google Maps if you want to, and that's all, once again, I'll get into that in later topics, especially adventuring. You can kind of implement things we have in real life and implement them like you would in a video game, but it'll be different. All in all, a UI, it's way easier. You have a skill bar that says how close you are to leveling up, but in real life, you can progress and really work hard as much as possible, but you don't have the same guarantee you'll level up because we don't have a skill bar, level up bar that says, or XP bar that says how close we are to leveling up. And that's really the biggest factor that makes living life like a video game so much harder. Because in video games, we always know we're gonna get a reward for doing something. Because it says so in the quest, it says so in the XP bar, it says so in the skill bar. We always know that whatever we do, we will get something out of. We will level up, we will get a new skill, we'll get a new ability or XP or an item. We always know we will get something. That's how video games work. They reward you with something constantly. But in real life, it's not so much the same thing because we don't have, you can practice cooking for hundreds of hours and you won't know if you actually level up because we don't have that bar that says, leveled up to level 2, chef. Now you have the skill cook with 2 pans or something like that. And we don't have that in real life, which makes it much harder to actually put in the effort to progress because we don't know. Why should you? Because you don't know when you're actually going to level up, or it takes much longer in the life as well. So that's really a big difference between real life and video games, which makes it inevitably much harder in real life. So that's the second thing. That's the second big difference. There's no we don't have a UI, user interface. And so the third aspect, after the two aspects we just talked about, is the aspect of no character creation. So in a lot of video games, especially RPGs and MMORPGs, you have the option in the beginning of the game to create your own character, and thereby, I mean, you can choose their class and their race, you can choose their height and their hair color, even down to their dick size. And for example, Cyberpunk, you can basically choose how your character looks in to the smallest little detail. And it's pretty obvious we don't have it in real life. You have to live with and use the cards you are given. So it's unfair for me to say that life is just like a video game when in real life that is one big aspect that, you don't choose who you are. Some people are born with genes that are a little bit abstract. For example, you're born with only one arm, something like that. So people in this world are born with disadvantages. You don't choose how you're born, where you're born, what kind of situation you're born. So it would be unfair for me to say that life is just like a video game when in video games you can choose all of that, and we don't really have these fantasy elements as well either. So it's really, that's a big aspect of life, of course, that we don't have. A big part is, of course, the genetics. You can work to create the best body that you can possibly have with the body you've been given. You can do the best you can, go work out, skincare and all of that stuff. But in general, or generally speaking, you have to, you can't, choose everything. You can't choose your, I'm not, like your jawline, or, I don't have, this guy has this, what's it called? Like the perfect symmetrical face of the eyes, or like point, all of that. You can choose all this. And there is something called the halo effect, and people who are generally more attractive and fit the upper ranks of the attractiveness scale, it's called the halo effect. You automatically trust them more. You're automatically nice to them and expect more of them. And looks can be, once again, altered by working out, eating healthy, skincare, good sleep, all of that stuff, of course, and do all of that. We're going to get into that in this video, of course, as well. But on a genetic level, there are just things you can't choose. Height, of course, being a big factor. You can choose your height. In a video game, at least, you can choose your race, and if you can choose to be like a dwarf, for example. In real life, people who are born dwarfs, they don't choose to be fucking born as dwarfs. They don't choose that life. So it would be unfair of me to say that everyone is the equal and the same and just like a video game. Not really the case. So that's the three biggest differences that I can find between real life and a video game. So you only have one life. There's no UI, no user interface or visual aids to help us and there's no character creation. Because in character creation, you a lot of times, especially MMORPGs, you can even choose where you're gonna spawn. You can even choose where you're gonna spawn inside the video game, like what continent or what city looks or appeals the most to you. You can choose all of that. So what I would recommend, because once again, this is not a video that will implement video as a system in your life. It's a mindset. Look at everything we're going to discuss in this video. Look at it more so as a RPG or a isekai. So in an RPG, a role-playing game for short, a lot of players, especially in MMORPGs, they'll create a character and they'll act as that character as best as possible. Now, this might sound a bit controversial, like, oh, you're going to delude yourself. But that's the thing. There's a quote, all of you know, fake it till you make it, and it really does work. If you fake being a warrior, even if you're not in it, and people are going to think this guy's fucking delusional, it helps, because by acting as someone above you and that you're not just yet, you will eventually become them, because you'll start doing the habits that these people that you admire, you'll do those habits. You'll walk and talk like those people you admire. So that's, once again, treat life like it's some kind of isekai. You're reborn as this warrior now in this world that you need to explore. We'll get into this all later, don't worry. But that's another, view life as an RPG. You're going to roll, from now on, at the end of this video, you're going to role play as this character that you admire to be. And it will be forced in the beginning. It's going to be very forced, because you're not. If you're sitting there, couch potato, and you weigh 150 kilograms, you love fast food and all of that stuff, and you act as if you're Patrick Bateman or something, or who else? Chris Hemsworth, for example. You act like you're Chris Hemsworth or Tom Holland. It's delusional. Of course you're not. Almost no one is. But that's the thing. If you act like these people, once again, of course, they're better than you. That's the whole thing I'm talking about. But you'll never completely beat them, because they're also genetically gifted. But if you act like them and you just pretend to be them as in your own way, of course, for a long time, you'll eventually become them as much as you'll not become them 100%. Once again, you probably have the genetic disadvantage, but you'll become the best or the closest you could possibly get to becoming them by acting as them. So you kind of have to become like just a method actor. Once again, it's going to be very forced in the beginning. People are going to think you're crazy. You're going to think you're crazy, because our mind is just an asshole, apparently. But in the long run, I think it will really help with setting, habits every single day. So that's another mind trick that and after this video, it will be much easier to implement this mindset than it is right now, because I understand it might be pretty hard to just implement it. But everything in this video is to make it easier for you and avoid mistakes I made. So having said the 3 differences, I'm going to go a bit deeper in those differences before we start with the actual guide, just to help you the best as possible, because that's what this video is about and for. I want to help you as best as I possibly can with my current speaking abilities. So taking these 3 differences, as I said, UI, for example, not every game has a UI. An example being one of the 3 games I'm going to talk about. Those games, of course, being Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, World of Warcraft, and Zelda Breath of the Wild. Zelda Breath of the Wild actually doesn't have a UI. As you can see, there is really not that much on the screen besides Link just running around. And you can see the same thing in GTA, for example. Sure, there are a few things on the screen, but really, all in all, it's very limited. So why is it that in those video games we still choose to go explore and, explore the world despite not having a constant UI telling us what to do? And while of course you have the infinite lives part still, which is automatically more motivating to explore, there's also other factors. One of them, of course, being, well, you bought the game, so you want to explore. Another one being, what's another one being, yeah, okay. So another one being the escapism part more so. So even though GTA also has, because GTA doesn't have, with Zelda Breath of the Wild, you can say it has a fantasy world. So we view this world, this fantasy world, that we want to explore. This is a concept called escapism, which is generally why video games are so popular, because you can escape to this different world and do all these different things. That is why open world games are so popular. The freedom that they give you, it does something to us, and that's why they're so popular. More and more games and more companies are launching their own open world games because of that freedom aspect that people love so much about video games. So when it comes down to escapism, generally with escapism, you want to, of course, escape into a form of media and into a different world. How do I explain this properly? It's difficult. I have to remember. Wait, I'm very sorry about this, but I have to check my notes for a minute because I'm not incredibly sure right now. Okay, yeah. So right. So this is something we call escapism. So in Zelda, you can have that argument. That's why we still choose to explore in Zelda, despite not having a UI. But why do we choose to explore in something like GTA? GTA having a very modern, realistic world, very similar to the world that we have. Like I said, it's freedom in the open world games that allow us to escape and give us this sense of exploration that we don't have in the real world. And that is really why video games are so popular, because the system of video games can be implemented in real life, and video games really aren't anything else. Video games take the system that we have in real life and the desires we have, and they implement it in the video game, and they use it for an easy, accessible platform. That's how they do it. So they have, for example, dressing up, and they take that system of dressing up and put it in GTA, but in a simple, accessible way. And that's really why video games are so popular. They take concepts, ideas, and systems from the real world, but put them in a more accessible platform, a more easier accessible platform than doing them in real life. In video games, it's just press of a button and it's done for a lot of things. Meanwhile, in real life, a lot of the things you'll see in the future of this video, they take time, they take effort, they take actual progress. And like I said in the UI section, because we don't have this visual aid to help us, we don't really have a lot of motivation to actually do them, because we don't know when we'll get that level up or get that boost or get that, new XP. We don't know if we're actually doing the quest, so to speak, in the right manner, because we don't have that visual aid. And that's really the premise of video games. Video games are just an easy, accessible version of our world, and with a few fantasy elements mixed in to make it even more enjoyable to play. And of course, the freedom that it gives us. Which is why I said to view our world as a role-playing game. Imagine you're just a GTA character that's spawned into wherever you're living, because we don't choose a location of GTA. We don't choose a location of Zelda. Well, Zelda will most likely be Hyrule, but Breath of the Wild Zelda is very different from Ocarina of Time Zelda. So you don't really choose a location for that either. We still choose to play it. So view life the same way you do like GTA, and the city changes every time. Now you're just in a new GTA game that's first person constantly, and you're in wherever you are. I'm not going to share it actually. No, right now I'm, for example, in Belgium. So, okay, it's GTA Belgium, for example. And you just mind frame to view the world like that. Once again, specifics, details to help you really implement this properly. All later, no worries. So then that's the role playing part. And why the games were, even without UI, they're still very inviting to do stuff in. And, oh yeah, also like I said with UI, it gives you quest logs constantly. Actually, the fact that there isn't UI makes it appealing as well, because in a lot of games you're constantly, there's dopamine hits. Just people will say games are very relaxing, but really they aren't. If you do a brain scan of people playing like a League of Legends, your brain would be, the lights would be going on everywhere. Your brain would be hyper stimulated. So that they really aren't very relaxing, are they? But with something like, and that's partly due to the UI, but with something like Breath of the Wild, because there's just nothing, no UI, and there's just this world for you to explore, you do whatever you want. It is an actual relaxing game for the most part. If you don't choose to, go fight constantly, it's a pretty relaxing game all around. And I think your brain, if we do the brain scan of Breath of the Wild, it would be way more relaxed than it ever could be in something like Call of Duty, which people also claim is relaxing. No, I mean, pretty obvious actually that if you're playing Call of Duty, would you really say you're just, oh yeah, I'm just causally relaxed and I'm just sitting there like this and going, oh, I'm almost sleeping? You wouldn't. You're hyper stimulated, hyper focused on the video game that you're playing to the point that you're actually getting angry when something doesn't go your way. So saying that it's relaxing is, you know, not the best, not the best way to describe it, I'd say, but certainly a way. So sorry for that. I know maybe this is bad on my part, but I have to check my notes. So yeah, like I said, so video games are psychology. These game developers, they know what you want, they know what you care about, and they take that and implement it in a easily accessible platform. They know you want to go outside and actually explore. They take that concept and make an open world. They know you actually want to make friends and make a guild, make a community for yourself. They take that concept and implement it in games and create guilds. So they know all these things about human design and psychology, and they implement it in games. People think that game developers are just these passionate people about games. Not saying that they're not, but it's the same for social media platforms. They know human psychology. They know what people want, and that's how they can make games and social media so addicting. They know what people desire and want. That's why Genshin Impact was so, powerful, because like I said in the UI section, there in video games you always know there's gonna be a reward. So what Genshin Impact does is it hits you with constant rewards by being able to claim characters. Basically becoming gambling at that point, but we're not calling it that. So yeah, instead of treating life and trying to make life a video game, don't do that. Treat life like an RPG. Treat life like an open world, like a massive open world game, with the only real limits being your mindset and your lifespan. So before we move on to the full guide that will help you implement this in your life, and you shall treat your life in this way after the video, I leave you with these hypnotizing words. Bro, your life is just a video game, but whether it's played or not is up to you. Let's move on, shall we? So the very first section we're going to get into are the section of guilds. this encapsulates friendship, community, and all in all, communication, social skills, and abilities. So, to have a bit of my own experiences, a lot of my best memories come from video games that I play with my friends. Now, that might actually be a sad thing because, I'd rather have my best memories being from real life rather than from video games. So that's actually a bit sad if you think about it, but still, they're happy memories, but nonetheless. So this is a topic that's very close to my heart. For example, one of the best memories I have is me and my best friend, we were playing Red Dead Redemption 2 online, and we just sat there and drove around the map with a train for hours on end. We just drove around the entire map of Red Dead Redemption 2 online, or Red Dead Redemption 2 in general just. And we just drove around the whole map with a train, and we saw we went into a cave or a waterfall. There was a guy constantly following us with a horde, and he just respawned somewhere and just kept following us and finding us. We stopped a while somewhere in a town, and we started putting people in an alleyway and killing them and putting them in an alleyway. So that is just one of my best gaming memories. It was just us in a train driving around the map. And another one with the same friend, for example, glitches in Odyssey. I was like, we were on a boat and a guy flew off the boat. Or one with the same friend and another best friend of mine. We were in Fortnite. Yeah, I know it's, oh my god, Fortnite. So Fortnite, this was when boats were just introduced. They just met. My two best friends just met, and now they've been talking to each other as well for years on end. So we just took some boats and we drove, and we just used these boats for an entire match, and we just used them on land and everything. It was I think this is one of the most funny moments. I've almost never laughed as much in my life as I've laughed in that moment. So when it comes to games and communities, MMORPGs as well, where I've met amazing people and actually joined guilds, it's a topic very close to my heart. So we love this aspect. This is, once again, developers take this aspect and our desire of finding meaningful friendships and putting it inside video games for us to actually find these people and start, guilds and communities with these people. I'm sorry, I'm sitting a bit uncomfortable. There's like a 90-degree angle right here. So I have to put my shoulder here, but I also I'm going to sit like this. Maybe that's a bit too close to the camera for you. Who knows? I'm sorry if I'm too close in your personal space right now, and you're going to have to deal with it right now. I'm sorry. So they take the element of our desire to seek meaningful friendships and building an actual community and put it inside games. This is why guilds are so popular, because with these guilds, we go on meaningful adventures. We go and explore a dungeon with them. We go and beat a dungeon with them. We join competitions. We talk with each other. We build our guilds or expand our guilds, share items. I think in some games you even have like this meeting place for guilds, and you just hang out with these guys in there, something like that. You team up with people, with teammates from your guild. You team up with them and just play with them for hours, help them level up, or they help you level up if they're your superiors and stuff like that. You go on raids and have wars with different guilds. It's these kind of things, this feeling of competition and meaning as a group and as friends, that makes friendships in games and guilds and games so attractive. You might say you're a lone player, and fair enough, I like playing alone as well. But even then, you'll sometimes find just a few people in this game and guilds in this game that are just so much fun that you want to join them. It's almost inevitable, really, but it's this feeling of going on meaningful adventures with these people and actually getting to know each other through this medium of video games that makes it so special. So taking that concept and trying to implement it in real life, it's quite easy, actually, which is why this topic isn't going to be very long. The other topics are going to be longer than this one, but it's quite easy, actually, to implement this aspect into our real lives. It really just comes down to do meaningful things with your friends. The same thing, the same way you would in video games. Go on adventures with them. Actually do something memorable with them in the real world. Just go on a walk in the forest. Go climb some trees or something. Do something challenging. Not, too hard, but something challenging. Not something dangerous, of course, but just something challenging. Because these are the kind of things that bond you. These are the kind of things that make friends actual friends, and not just your drinking buddies or escapism buddies. I'll probably make it just a short video on this next week. It's an idea I came up with called escapism buddies. Right now you might be a bit confused about it, but I'll explain it in a later video. Don't worry. So this is what creates actual friendship. So it's quite easy. Just do meaningful things with your friends. Go adventure with them, bond with them like you would in a video game by doing memorable things. And when it comes to meeting new people, same thing. Go talk to them like you talk to them in a video game. You don't meet people in a video game by not talking to them. You find each other and you start talking. It's how friendships always happen. It's how relationships happen. It's just how, I don't know why a friend of mine recently said, no, you don't always have to talk to each other to form a relationship. That's, I don't know what kind of relationship you have then, but it might not be the best for you. I'm sorry. The next topic, I know, very, very short. The next topic is about skills. This kind of correlates with what I said in the UI section. A good example I can use is Breath of the Wild or DBZ Kakarot when talking about leveling up your skills. Especially MMORPGs as well, like WoW and RuneScape might actually even be better when it comes down to skills. You have, for example, the cooking skill, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video. In Breath of the Wild and DBZ, you'll do cooking to get better at cooking. Learn new recipes that will benefit your character in the game, because cooking will give you stat points. Eating good food in games will give you stat points. So you practice cooking, you make better meals, find better ingredients, all of that stuff. Same for crafting in especially RuneScape again. You'll mine stone and you'll continue to mine stone to get a level up in that skill. You'll practice these skills in a video game to get new levels or experience out of. You'll get new abilities from them or something, or get a new title or status. That is exactly why we play games. It's to gain this title and status inside this virtual world, which is exactly what you want from gaining that experience in your certain skill to be the best in your profession. Because in games you have professions. In some games at least you have professions. So you practice your skill to level it up and eventually become better at it, eventually gaining new specific abilities to your class. So once again, quite self-explanatory when it comes down to implementing this in your real life. You just have to practice a skill to do it. I know it sounds oversimplified, but it really is that simple. The only difference, once again, is that in video games it's just easier because it's a click of a button. You cook a meal, it's click a few buttons, meal cooked. You want to practice craftsmanship, it's just click a few buttons, sword made. And you see the bar going up again with the visual aid, the UI, bar goes up again, you'll know you leveled up because you can see it on your screen. So once again, It's very self-explanatory. The only real difference being no visual aid and difficult. It's way more. It's practicing a skill in real life, cooking in real life. Let's take the example of cooking. Breath of the Wild, it's just choose your ingredients, put them in a pot, and click on a button, and it will start cooking a meal for you. I think we all know in real life, it's a bit more difficult than that, and takes a lot more time and practice. So while this might be a bit self-explanatory, once again, this is a full guide to how to implement this in your life. I'm just giving you a few ideas that you can then implement in your life. So instead of looking at cooking as this task, look at it like a skill that you can level up like you would in a video game. When you look at going to talk to someone, don't look at, oh, I'm an introvert, I'm not good at I'm not very good socially. Don't look at it like that. Look at it like gaining a new friend that will, benefit you in some way. And also, while doing this, you're leveling up your social skills. So imagine in your mind, whatever you do, there's this skill bar for everything you do. And eventually you will reach your level up. It will take longer than it will in video games. Of course, that's why video games exist and are so popular, because they're so easily accessible and you can act out your desires in such an easy and accessible manner. But you will eventually level up in real life as well. Some people have the belief, pessimistic really, that some people just never will level up no matter how hard they try. In some aspects that might be true. I'm not guaranteeing, of course, that you will be a Gordon Ramsay if you desire to be so. I desire to get the Gordon Ramsay's title above my head. Maybe no matter how hard you practice cooking, you'll never reach that level. But generally, I believe it's possible to at least level up one level by practicing a skill for countless hours. So instead of putting all that time and leveling up skills in video games, and once the same thing for making friends in video games, put that time in actually leveling them up in real life. That 1 hour you spend in leveling it up in a video game, spend in real life leveling up your cooking. You'll gain way more out of this 1 hour in real life than you ever will out of that 1 hour in video games, because if that video game ever shuts down or crashes and you can't restart it, it's gone. Your cooking skills won't be. You'll still have them, so spend them on that. Next up, we have quests and challenges. Comes down to the same thing as skills. So, once again, I'm going to take my own experiences. One of my proudest moments is, it's in a game called Destroy All Humans. So I was a huge fan of the Destroy All Humans game. I played it on the PS4, the old one. And I found on YouTube that they were making a remake. So I joined the Discord and I followed the remake of the game constantly. They eventually released a demo that I played until the final release. And in that demo, I was the first person on Earth to attain 1 million DNA. So in Destroy All Humans, you kill humans, and from killing a human, you get 25 DNA. And with DNA, you can upgrade your skills and your weapons and all of that. You can level it up. And your UFO, very good game, by the way. I don't recommend you play it because, once again, take the time you spend in video games, implement it in real life. But it is a very good and fun game. I'm going to be very honest. It was an actual game I enjoyed back when I used to enjoy games a bit more. So I was the very first person on Earth to attain 1 million DNA, and I got a special, gift out of it. I got a collector's edition, which normally costs $150, and I got it for free, signed by all the developers on that game. And that was a very special moment for me, because I just did, I achieved something as the first person on Earth. I just did something remarkable in a video game. No one told me to do this. No one told me to attain 1 million DNA. No one told me to spend all these hours. but I just viewed it as a challenge that I wanted to do. Was it the best decision? Oh, looking back on it, absolutely not. I wasted sleep. I wasted a lot of time as well. So should I have done it? Not really. Do I look back on it fondly? Absolutely, because I'm still the first person on Earth to attain 1 million DNA in that game. So, world champion here. You're talking, be honored, you peasant. I can't even say it properly. I'm very sorry. So it's the same thing in real life, because actually, we don't have a reason to complete quests. Because that got me thinking, why did I do it? No one told me to do this, but it's just the challenge that excited me. And it's the same in video games. No one's actually telling you to do these quests, but they just seem appealing to you because you will get something out of them, which is why you do them. Challenge is the same thing. You do these challenges for no specific reason. Some challenges don't even give you anything. They're just challenges, but you do them because it's challenging, it's exciting, it's something new to do. And so this is once again this desire for status and title and achieving something, this sense of accomplishing something, this sense of a victory that excites us so very much. And that's once again exactly what video game developers know about us and implement in games as much as possible. When implementing this in real life, it is quite clear once again. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. This is also the reason why video games are mostly male-dominated. Because video games take this sense of challenge and desire of accomplishing something and doing something, challenging. And that there's something in the gene of men that excites us when there is challenge. We love challenge. We love quests. We love something that gives us this edge, this excitement. And it takes this aspect, this desire to because we've always been competitive. The male has always been very competitive in nature. So they take this competitive nature of the man and implement it perfectly by introducing constant challenges to us in video games, which is why they're so addicting to us and why they're mostly male dominated. Because the challenge and the status and achievement you can get out of these games is just very desirable for men. This feeling of I'm the strongest, I'm the alpha male here, it excites us, which is why they're very male dominated. So that's another reason. And this video is mostly aimed toward men. I'm very sorry, ladies, if you're watching, but this video is mostly aimed towards my fellow young men who are trying to improve and escape. I shouldn't use the word matrix again. Maybe I've already used it countless times in my previous video. So, how do we implement this in real life? It's self-explanatory, but it's less self-explanatory because this is where I made a lot of mistakes. Don't over-challenge yourself. You have to have concrete goals that you can achieve. I know I just said I just did the 1 million DNA for no reason, and why would it be any different in real life? Trust me, it is different in real life because once again, it's way harder in real life than it is in a game because you have to put actual effort in it. In Destroy All Humans, I had a auto-clicker that, constantly killed humans and I just had to sit there and turn my mouse constantly. But I still had the visual stimulation of the game, so I could still keep my concentration, and I was talking to my friends the whole time as well. So, you don't have that in real life. You don't have this constant visual stimulation to keep you going. You have to just put in the work. What I do and what I recommend is you make promises to yourself. Kind of I call them soul promises. So you make a promise with your soul, you write it down, and you make a promise with your soul that you're going to achieve this certain thing by this, and there will be a drawback if you don't complete it. This is to hold yourself accountable. Just like in video games, there are daily tasks, and you have a timer that is going off. After that timer is over, quest is gone. You'll never get it again. Maybe it will be repeated later in the game because they have to recycle quests. They can't make new quests every day for years on end. So they might recycle it, but still, it's a daily task. Once that the day is over, that quest is gone. And so that XP that you could have attained from this is also gone, for a while at least. The same can be said for life. You can make time-related quests. So you have deadlines, really. It's just deadlines. But they're more motivating than deadlines because you actually have a drawback this time. Now, you might say, why would you do this drawback? If you didn't even complete the actual promise you made, why would you do the drawback that you made? And I have one simple thing to say. No reason at all. You don't. You can perfectly choose to not do the promise and not do the drawback. It's what I did one time, and, I was supposed to upload my very first video on March 13th. Look when I uploaded it. So you can do this. There's no reason you shouldn't, other than you really want to disappoint yourself in that way. The only way people can build self-confidence is when they actually achieve stuff that will make them self-confident and give them this self-confidence. People don't achieve self-confidence by just failing constantly. You will learn something out of failing constantly, and we implement what we learn from failing. But there's a difference between failing, taking why you failed and improving upon it, and just failing, knowing what you did wrong, not improving upon it, and failing again. There's a huge difference between the two. So there's no reason why you should do the drawback, other than you'll break the mindset. You'll break the belief. As long as you hold the belief that you're actually an RPG character, and because a game will force you to do the drawback. So you have to force yourself. If you don't, you'll disappoint yourself, and the mindset that I will give you throughout this video will be useless because now you broke it for yourself. So hold yourself accountable for your actions. There's a difference between responsibility and accountability. Responsibility is just, you know what you did wrong. That's it. Accountability is, you know what you did wrong, and you'll improve upon it. That is, no, wait, is it the other way around? It's that, okay, that's right. No, that's right. So with accountability, you don't just take responsibility for what you look at what you did wrong, and you take accountability so you know it's your fault, and you improve upon it for the next time. That's the difference. You have to take accountability, not just responsibility. So remember that. So that's how you implement quests and challenges in your life. Take something that you know you can achieve. Make a promise about it, and make a drawback for it if you don't achieve it by that certain date, or, So make a drawback for it, and remember that you actually have to do this drawback and keep your promise. So that's very important. If you really can't hold yourself accountable, if it's like an impossible task for you, you can always include your friends in on this. Tell them that a lot of you will be reluctant to do this. I myself haven't done it yet, but I know I know for a fact it can help, and it will help if you have people that really can hold you accountable. If people know what you're doing and you tell them, okay, I have this project, I'm going to release it on this date. they're going to ask questions by the date and you haven't released anything. Couldn't do it. And then they'll, activate a drawback. You call with them or something. You video call with them, and you'll have to do the drawback in front of them. So, including your, I know it sounds very hard to do this, but put your mind over it. We're all trying to improve ourselves, so you'll have to say fuck you to your mind, because your mind right now is already making excuses. Your mind is the same mind that told you to watch porn, so don't believe your mind and thoughts right now. Okay? Say fuck you to those thoughts. And if you really can't hold accountability yourself, try this technique. Implement and use your friends and include your friends in on your projects and what you're doing. Because it's all a frame of mind. Why do people do the challenge of every hour they have to touch the floor? It's 13:13, touch the floor. It's 14:14, touch the floor. Why do people do this challenge? They have no reason to. They just do it. Why do they do it? Because of the simple reason that, it's fun. It's a challenge. There's really no reason to it, just other than it's a challenge and it's challenging. There's really no other reason for it. They don't have any reason. At least with this, you have a reason, because doing these challenges will improve your life. But yet, you choose to do a challenge like 13:13, 14:14 every hour over something like actually doing work, because it's work. It's work. Once again, doing actual work is hard. It's very hard. Now we come to leveling up. Probably the most important system in video games, but not the biggest section of this. My most favorite section and most important section of this video is the upcoming one, but this is a very huge part of video games in general, and it's leveling up. Everything I've discussed before applies to this one section as well. You level up in a video game because you seek status. You not only seek status, it's also the aspect of quests and challenges that you wish to fulfill your desires and you want to feel accomplished. You want to reach a certain level in the game because that will give you accomplishment. If you actually become max level, you won't really be, because you won't be, very satisfied. You won't be jumping with joy. That's how the mind works. Once you've reached your goal, you won't feel that happy about reaching your goal, which is actually a good thing because it keeps our dopamine levels down. But when you reach a goal, you genuinely don't feel that happy about reaching it, and more so, okay, what's next? So it's the same with leveling up. You seek this goal and the status of leveling up. But once you actually reach it, it's kind of a bummer, really. So when talking about my own experiences, I've always wanted status. From a very young age, I used to say, what do you want to be? People ask you when you're very young, for some reason when you're a kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'd answer, superhero. I was a kid, so it was pretty normal, but I used to answer superhero. But those dreams of becoming a superhero and getting that status never really went away. In fact, I still kind of have them, because this desire of mine to gain power and status and just gain freedom, they've never gone away. I have always wanted to be untouchable, and I've always wanted freedom in every aspect. I wanted to be Lucifer is a good example. If you don't know Lucifer, he's the main character from Lucifer. He's called Lucifer Morningstar in full. I for a long time, I basically just wanted to be him. He's free in every aspect, not exactly because he still drinks alcohol and still has sex with random women. I don't want that anymore. I don't want that. But It's about the freedom that he has. He does whatever he pleases. He makes a lot of money, can wear suits, and he's a devil, so he's immortal. He has total freedom. He doesn't have to worry about aging or dying because he's a fucking devil. So it's that desire that I've had for a long time, and it's that same desire that video games take into account when leveling up. It's that sense that you feel more powerful when you level up. You feel the power. Just beating up a level 2 guy when you're level 5 or level 6 or max level then they're like, oh, try and beat me. And you can like battle them. Some games have that, some MMORPGs. It feels so fucking good, man. It just it just feels so good because it's that, once again, it's that competitive edge that we just have. It's that, especially men have. It's that competitive edge, that sense of superiority and of power, that feeling. We love that feeling. We love that's why, once again, sports and watching sports very popular with men. We love competing with each other and with ourselves. That's what it's all boils down to up until now. So you want to be known in the video game world and your game. I used to play a game called Dragon Ball Z Online, and this is the Dragon Ball Z Online Zenkai. So there's a lot of the official version shut down, but there are a lot of different new versions. One of them was Zenkai, which also shut down. But in that game, I did basically everything I've said up until now, and what I'll say in the future. So I joined the guild. I did quests and challenges, also with that guild and teammates from that guild. I practiced skills and tried to become the best in those skills, and I leveled up. So my goal was to because it's a Dragon Ball game, and Dragon Ball is all about power levels. So I just wanted to level up and become the strongest dude there was, and gain fame inside this. I know it sounds stupid, and looking back on it, it really is. So I wanted to gain fame in this video game, in this virtual world, instead of, in the real world. I know it's kind of, but that's what I wanted. So yeah, looking back on it, this video is so self-explanatory all around. Same thing can be said for real life once again. You won't have the visual aid. You won't know what you're leveling up or when you're leveling up. You won't actually know when you're close to leveling up, once again. But that desire of wanting to become the best possible version of yourself, keep that. Keep that desire. Keep that flame going. And like we discussed in the skills section, keep practicing those skills. Keep trying to become more powerful. Level up in social skills. Level up in cooking. Level up in the gym. You can perfectly use the gym for leveling up. Whenever you're going to use a new weight or a new rep, you've leveled up. Yeah, you add weight as like a level up. Okay, +1 weight. And every time you lift the weight, it's +1 strength. It's +1 strength. Oh, when you're running, it's +1 speed and +1 agility. When you're eating, it's +1 fucking protein or something. Think about life. Just envision it. Just envision life like a video game. Think about everything you do like it's a video game. It takes way more time than it does, but you'll get there. Right now, you're on level 80, on level 12 kilogram bench press. Well, in 1 month, you'll level up to 15. 1 month later, 20. And once again, probably not 1 month. It'll be 1 week to 2 weeks, probably. But you get the point, Eventually, you'll get that fucking muscle, and you'll be able to bench press 50 kilograms. You just have to level it all up, and you're adding 1 strength with every push. While it will take more time, what is the difference between grinding for hours in a game, hundreds of hours even in a game, and grinding hundreds of hours in real life? One's harder, but will give you way more in the end once easier, but all in all, the results will be pretty, it will be a bummer for you. I'm sorry to say, sorry to, you know, ruin your expectations like that. I hope this video is not too much of a mess. I'm still experimenting with YouTube. This is only my third video, and this is all improvised. Once again, I just have bullet points. I hope this video has at least a coherent structure. I'm not repeating myself too much, because I want to avoid it as much as possible. Maybe this video could have been shorter, because all in all, it could have been boiled down to gaining status, seeking status, and think of everything like slowly leveling it up. But, I wanted to go in more detail about it, so I'm sorry about that. But now we can actually go to the real reason to why this video is built into different sections, and why I wanted to go in depth on them. We're going to go into my favorite aspect and section of this video, and the one that I've actually been able to help a lot of personal self-improvement with this mindset. It's adventuring. I was talking to a guy in a self-improvement Discord, which I was a mod in. I am a moderator in, actually. And he was talking about how he just didn't know what to do. He didn't have any sense of, challenge. He didn't know what to actually do with his life and spend it. Because people go to self-improvement, but they don't know what to do in the meantime while they're dopamine detoxing, for example. And they won't know what to do with their time. So this one guy came in, and I asked him, what is it that you want to do? And what is it that you like? So he liked anime, manga, and video games. And with anime and manga, he especially liked isekai. He loved this concept of leveling up in a new world and exploring this new world and gaining new friends along the way. He loved this concept. So I explained to him that why not try and view the world in the same way? I actually might show the messages on screen right now, the exact messages, because I might actually just not explain it as well in this video as I did to this guy. I want to avoid it as much as possible, but it's possible. So this will be flashing on screen right now, but I'm going to explain it anyway. So how I explain it to this guy is that when thinking about video games and isekai, how do the maps actually look like? In Breath of the Wild, when we take Breath of the Wild, for example, to illustrate my point, we'll take that as an example. The map is gray. Every zone is gray. It's blacked out. It's unknown. You have to explore that region to actually color it on the big map, and you have to do that for every single area. Why not take the same concept and implement it in real life? Do you really know? Let's be real here. Face me. Let's be real here. Do you know can you say with certainty that you know every area and every street and every spot in your street, town, city, country, continent, world? Can you say that with certainty? If you were to walk down your street right now, even look out your window, can you say with certainty that you've been to every single spot in your own street? You know everything by heart. You can make like a 3D representation of your street with ease in your mind. Let's take your town now, or your city. Do you know every area, every shop, every person? Do you know what's going to be around every corner? What is the difference between a world in a video game and a world of real life? The only argument you can make is that in something like Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and World of Warcraft, and Dragon Ball Z Kakarot alike, you have fantasy elements that make it so exciting to explore. Once again, I'll refer to GTA. Maybe even Assassin's Creed. You're gonna tell me that you didn't spend hours in those games just exploring, just looking what the city looks like? I think, once again, it's this feeling of freedom that it gives us, that these games give us, that makes it so exciting to explore. And you can do the same thing in real life. You really can, because I'm trying once again. So the freedom that it gives you and the pleasure you get when you find something new. I got so excited with Breath of the Wild, as an example, when I found this massive, this maze. I think it's maze. It's maze. That's the word. This massive maze is this sense of finding something new that you've never seen before in this world that you don't know. That's so, especially in Breath of the Wild, that's so exciting, because there's just something to see and, remember fondly around every corner. And honestly, it's the same for real life. Every corner, every single street has something fun, and something that you'll fondly remember. So go out and explore. It's that simple. Go out and explore. Take your backpack and go outside running, but not with the intention of running. Go outside running with the intention of exploring. Go climb that tree. Who knows what you'll find up there? Take a different path. I've taken this path before. Go off the rails. I'll go there now. I'll go up the hill. Who knows what'll be up there? Go out and explore. You'll always find new things, new people, new locations, maybe even new locations you'll go back to constantly. The same way you do in video games, you'll find certain checkpoints or villages in video games that are just so much fun, and the music and the OST are so good there, you'll want to stay there the whole game. Same thing in real life. You don't just have your street. You don't just have your town, not just your city, not just your country, not just your continent, but your entire world and all of the continents on it. You have a bigger map than any game up until this point at least ever had, and probably ever will. Why do we find the game in which there's this game where they took a plane and the Google Maps and they implemented the code, added the two together, so now you can fly over our world, so to speak. And so many people play that game and are like, oh, that's where I live. Oh, wow, that's so cool. Why don't we just do the same thing? But walking, why is backpacking so popular? Why do you think it's so popular? People traveling through Europe with a backpack, traveling through Asia with a backpack. Why is it so popular? Because life is like a video game. You'll have one area that's like, whoa, so many trees and houses. One area is just, whoa, just pure city. One area is just desert and, whoa, Africa, lions, giraffes. I don't have that in Europe. Whoa. One got, what the hell? Mountains, giant mountains of snow up upon them. And then there's people with kimonos on wooden bridges. Japan, I'm describing. Just Japan as a country has so many different sorts of areas, to the point there really is no difference between Japan or a video game world. There is no difference. Even a lot of games are influenced by Japan. In Persona 5, for example, you just live your normal life. I think it's Japan in Persona 5 also. You live your normal life in Japan as a student, and still you have this excitement, this exciting feeling of exploration. So go out, explore, have a backpack, just have some water, some meals, and just explore. Just go sit against a tree. The thought of me sitting against a tree with a backpack and lunch, or sitting in the sun just on a hill, that excites me. It makes me happy, that thought alone, or just me challenging myself in nature. I'm gonna build a cabin, or I'm gonna hunt for food and cook some food, level up my cooking skills. I'm gonna go to fucking Antarctica like Wim Hof and bathe in ice cold water. I know the thought of adventuring, just going out and exploring and challenging myself while exploring and leveling up my skills while exploring is the perfect video game life. But so these are all the sections on the video game aspects that I really do think you can implement in real life. So we have guilds, find friends, find meaningful friendships, and do meaningful things with these friends. Go out and I'm going to encapsulate it all. Try and gain friends. With these friends, go out into nature, go out into the world, and explore. Treat the world like it's a locked map. Every area is gray. You don't know any area, you have to color them. Go out and explore with these friends. While exploring, do challenging, meaningful quests, or just challenges with these friends while exploring. And while exploring, you level up something that you wish to level up. You give, for example, you'll be the cook, or I'll be the cook. I want to level up my cooking, so I'll be the cook. And you gain this experience through exploring with your friends in life and treating life like a video game. I know it sounds hard. And of course, I'm not telling you to, oh yeah, I'm still in high school, drop high school and go on into the fucking woods and hunt some wild boars. Of course, I'm not telling you to do this. You choose how you use this knowledge, right now or in the future. But just know that there really isn't that much of a difference. There really isn't. And that is what I want to see with this video. I wanted to make it clear with this video. And I didn't really need to explain any of how you implement it. By me just telling you how and what we do in a video game, I bet you probably already knew what I was going to say when talking about how to implement it. Because it's pretty self-explanatory. But sometimes we just need to be told and hear it from someone else in order to truly know that other people think like you and that you're not alone on this. Because most of the things that these self-improvement YouTubers, and myself included, tell you, you already know. You most likely already know all of it. But sometimes you just need to hear it coming out of someone else's mouth in order to believe it. And that's exactly what this video does. So take my words, take my advice, and implement it as in your own manner. Go to speak to people like they're, NPC, so to speak, or future guild members. Treat your friends like they are guild members. Go out and do something with them. Treat the world like a video game world or an isekai that's meant for you to explore, gain experience out of, gain friendships out of, and explore with yourself and with friends along the way. Treat the economy the same way. Treat leveling up the same way you do as in games. Treat challenges and skills the same way. That's what it all comes down to. But remember the differences. You only have one life, so don't do stupid shit. You don't have any visual aid, so it will be much harder than it ever will be in a video game. And you don't choose who you are. You don't choose where you start exploring. That's exactly what makes it even more exciting. At least in my eyes. So I'm going to go back to my hypnotizing words and ask you, or tell you, bro, your life is just a video game. But whether it's played or not is up to you. This was Tempest Vanguard once again.